Yo guys, Nadex here again with another video. This time going over some of the hot fixes coming up for tomorrow's reset on EU, of course. Just going over some of the changes that are due to come out, how it will affect some of the classes, and possibly change the meta moving forward. Um, with that being said, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and a comment if you really enjoyed it, with some feedback if you want. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So, starting off, we've got some Death Knight changes. Soul Reaper damage increased by 10%. Ice Talon's duration increased to 10 seconds, was 6. I kind of like this Soul Reaper change just because their Soul Reaper, the execute basically didn't feel very threatening, and this feels like it will help um, tune that up a little bit and hopefully have that do what it's supposed to do. As you know, warriors have execute, warlocks have drain soul, which both very threatening spells, and hopefully this kind of helps it keep up with other classes executes. Um, Apocalypse Ghoul duration increased to 20 seconds, up from 15. Death Cold damage increased by 10%. Clawing Shadows damage increased by 6%. Scourge Strike damage increased by 6%. Plague Bringer duration increased to 10 seconds, up from 5. And Reaping now increases the damage of Soul Reaper, Scourge Strike, Festering Strike, and Death Coil by 25% of damage, was 20 to enemies below 35% health. So these changes just provide a bit more consistent damage for the spec, which I can see it needing outside of its big abomination limbo. I just don't like the playstyle of having a lot of pets, which Unholy and Demo Lock thrive in, and I feel like this kind of helps that a little bit, which I'm not a big fan of. But buffing their consistent damage, I can kind of get behind, as they really didn't do too much outside of their big goes. Demon Hunter. Fixed an issue that prevented Fellblade from gaining the damage bonus of any means necessary. I am honestly not too sure what this does, so please, any Demon Hunter players in the chat, in the comments, sorry, please let me know if this is a good or a bad thing. Druid balance, fixed an issue where fungal growth wasn't quickly benefiting from lunar eclipse, and fungal growth was getting additional unintended damage. Okay, some little fixes. All heating increased for Resto Druid, increased by 5%. Does not apply in PvP. Cool. Um, Embrace of the Dream healing increased by 25%. I'm pretty sure this is a PvE change. And Luxuriant Soil was now 1.5/3, was 1/2%. Chance to spread of rejuvenation. This is another PvE change. Evoker, several animations have been improved when casting hovering. Disintegrate damage increased by 15%. This will really help. Devastation a lot, even though they don't really need it, as they do a bunch of damage right now. The damage is actually cracked at the moment. So I'm not sure if they really needed this change, honestly. Preservation Evoker fixed an issue that could cause Rewind to fail to heal damage dealt to allies in large encounters, such as Razagath. Okay. Marksman, all damage dealt reduced by 3%. I don't think this is the biggest thing. I feel like obviously until double tap is removed, they will still be doing a huge amount of damage. Um, Mage, Pyroblast damage increased by 12%. Ignite damage increased by 5%. Fire Blast damage increased by 12%. Fireball damage increased by 12%. Scorch damage increased by 12%. That's a lot of buffs of fire. I don't think fire struggle with damage. Obviously no one's gonna argue with more damage, but I don't think that was the spec's problem. I feel like the problem with fire was that, well, two problems with fire. The first one being that outside of combustion, they don't really do much. So I guess this kind of helps that. But this is not. I'm not sure if this is the kind of way to address it. Maybe it is. I guess the consistent damage does kind of help that. But I think the main problem is that it their main pyroblast generators, i.e., for example, fire blast and phoenix flame, they just spread ignite to everything nearby and break CC. So, for example, if you're playing Rogue Mage or RMP and you're trying to do a go and you CC the healer next to the kill target, the Fire Mage can't really do damage because his Fire Blast and his Phoenix Flames are gonna break the poly. So I feel like that if I feel like that is the biggest downside to Fire. Um, if it was changed back to Phoenix Flames being the only thing that could spread ignite, sorry, then I feel like Fire would be in a better position just from that change alone. But obviously we'll have to see how these buffs kind of come in and change things. Frost, Iceland's damage increased by 12%, Flurry damage increased by 15%, Frostbolt damage increased by 15%, Glacial Spike damage increased by 15%, and Splitting Ice, Icicles, and Icelands hit another nearby target for 80% was 65%. Okay, a bit more consistent damage for Frost. The only thing I don't like about this one is the Glacial Spike change, as Glacial Spike is already hitting pretty hard. Just for an example, I was in an arena and someone got hit for 215k Glacial Spike crit. So obviously, if you're looking for a gauge of how big that is, people have around just over 300k health, and this is hitting over half of that amount. Now with this buff, it's gonna be actually cracked. So besides this, I'm not too mad about these changes. Windwalker, all ability damage reduced by 3%. I don't think this is a big deal. Windwalker will still be doing insane amounts of damage on their goes. I don't think they're gonna notice a 3% reduction in damage. Paladin, Aspiration of Divinity stacks now overlap correctly, fixing an issue that caused Retribution Aura to sometimes stroke its cooldown without granting Seraphim. Okay. Prop Paladin changes. Don't think anybody cares unless you're a tank player, which I hope you're not, because yeah, I'm not gonna get into that one. Shadow Vampiric Touch damage increased by 10%. Pain increased by 10% for Shadow only. Shadowy Apparition damage increased by 10%. Devouring Plague damage increased by 10%. Voidbolt damage increased by 20%. Mind Blast damage increased by 20% for Shadow only. Mind Spike damage increased by 20%. Mind Flick damage increased by 20%, and Idol of Yashiraj increases damage done by 5% when Mind Bender is summoned on a feared target, down from 15. And then they increase the amount of cost of Power Shield to 5% instead of 4 for Shadow. I don't know if these buffs are necessary, honestly. Shadow was already doing amazing damage. I don't think damage was a problem for Shadow. Um, Maybe this is more focused towards PvE. Um, I would hope, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be an all-round flat buff to the spec, which is honestly not really warranted. The spec was already doing very good on the damage meters, um, and as well as being very good utility wise and defensively. I feel like this is just gonna push the class even higher up on the tier list. Um, I do like the Idol of Yashiraj change though, as it just helps reduce the chance of cheesy interactions, cheesiness with this interaction, as obviously you're now taking 10 less damage when feared with a Mindbender on you from this talent. And a 1% increase on base mana for powered shield on the spec. I'm not sure how big of a deal that would be, but yeah. Rogue. Resounding Clarity now causes Echoing Reprimand to animal charge 2 additional common points was 3. I Okay, so if it comes when it comes to Asa and Outlaw, I like this change. But with Sub, I don't like it. Um I may sound biased because I am a rogue player myself, but in my head I'm just already thinking that hey, as sub rogue, the only damage we do right now is with secret technique, and that's getting nerfed. Obviously that nerf is needed, 100%. But with this, I just feel like you CDRing your dance is gonna be even harder. Obviously playing invigorating shadow dust that gives you 20 seconds off your rogue abilities when you vanish. Did that also helps with CDR on not just dance but a lot of other spells. But I just don't like this change much. For I wish they had just made it this change for Asa and Outlaw. That would have made sense to me. But hitting sub with this, I just don't like it. Assassination, all ability damage reduced by 3%. Fatal concoctions damage bonus for weapon poisons reduced to 10% was 15. Asa nerfs, love it. Spec is really good. Bit too good maybe. So a bit of tuning to that spec down. I'm all for it. All damage reduced by 3% for Outlaw. I like it. I've been watching a lot of Outlaw streamers like Rat, and their specifically the sub-law build can literally do so much damage in the smallest window. So I do like this. Another nerf for sub, all damage reduced by 3%. I don't know why this is needed. Honestly, Secret Technique is already being nerfed, which is literally the only thing that does damage for us. And now they're nerfing us again by 3%. It's not a huge number, but it's still a nerf, and I don't know if it's needed, honestly. Um, Shaman enhancement, all damage reduced by 3%. I like it. This spec, along with Ellie, has been just cranking out lightning bolts well over 100k. That really like there's no way to counterplay it. You just get deleted like that. So a little bit of a damage nerf is not going to make the biggest difference, but it's a step in the right direction. Warlock Malefic Rapture damage increased by 15%. Drain Soul damage increased by 20%. Shadowbolt damage increased by 20%. And Pandemic Invocation damage increased by 500%. Now, Affliction is a spec that I don't think needed a buff. The spec was already doing very well in terms of damage output, and obviously I'm talking about PvP for all these changes, and I don't think that I don't think that this buff was really warranted, to be completely honest. Like, why did they need more damage? Why? But regardless, it's here. I don't really like it, but we'll have to see how bad it is once the patch goes up tomorrow. Demonology, the cooldown of Cold Fell Hunter is now 60 seconds, up from 30. I'm pretty sure this is the kick via their PvP talent. So their kick now being a 1 minute cooldown instead of 30 seconds, I like it a lot. It just helps tune down the disruption of the spec, which is I'm all for. Destruction, Chaos Bolt Chaos Bolt damage increased by 5%. I like this. Chaos Bolt has not really been what it used to be, a shadow of its former self. It's not felt that threatening where you don't get punished if you don't stop it or you line it at the moment. So a little bit of a damage buff, I'm behind it. Why not? And finally, arms. All ability damage increased by 3%. Mortal strike damage increased by 5%. Execute damage increased by 10%. I like this. Arms has not really been the go-to spec for Warrior in a while, and I can see them trying to push Arms and make it a bit more competitive with Fury, although I believe Fury will still be the best spec for the class, as it's just a lot more tanky and better at surviving than Arms. And Fury got a 2-set bonus that increases their critical strike for execute to 25%, was 10%. I'm not too sure if Fury Warriors will play this one, just because I lack knowledge in terms of what they'll be going for. But any Fury Warrior players, let me know if 2-set will be something that you'll be looking forward to playing with this change. And I'm pretty sure there were some PvP specific changes. Here we go. So Demon Hunter, the hunt deals 20% less damage in PvP, and Misery in defeat now increased damage dealt to the target by 10%, was 20%. I am behind these changes. Demon Hunters do way too much damage. People have been saying this for a while now, and Blizzard are finally listening, shooting them down by a significant amount. Love it. Um, Star Surge, Wrath, and Starfire damage increased by 20% in PvP. I kind of like this. Put in the fridge. Okay, sorry about that. Where was I? Star Surge, Wrath, and Starfire damage increased by 20% in PvP. Right. So with Druid, I feel like their dots over time kind of did more work than their actual direct damage. And I feel like this kind of helps a little bit with that. Um, Helping their direct damage, like Star Surge, Wrath, and Starfire, kind of keep up a bit more with their dots, which I think helps the class. Um, it's it will just help them spend their actual power on that instead of other things. So that's always a good thing. Feral lead the pack now. Heals for 3% of the minute of the maximum health, was 5%. I kind of like this change in terms of nerfing their self healing, which Feral has a lot of. They have a lot of personal cooldowns like Bark Skin, Wall, Frenzied Regen, and obviously the heal from you of the pack as well. Now being 2% less. Obviously, it's not. I don't think it'll be that noticeable, but obviously we'll have to wait and see what happens. Um, Restoration Druid, Riptide healing increased by 15% in PvP combat. I didn't know Rest Druids had a Riptide. I thought that was a Shaman thing, but somebody let me know if I'm smoking meth. Life Bloom healing reduced by 10% in PvP, and Life Bloom's Bloom healing reduced by 10% in PvP. I like this change. Rest Druids are really strong at the moment, a little bit um, ahead of the curve. Um, in terms of healers. I feel like they're right behind preservation. So this change is welcomed, honestly. Monk. Blackout kick damage increased by 15% in PvP combat, and Tiger Palm damage increased by 50% in PvP combat. I do like this, helping monks do a bit more damage, kind of giving me a bit of a, a mop vibe, where they were quite formidable if they're in close range. Right now, they just don't do much outside of being a heal bot, really. So that's nice. Mistweaver mana regeneration now reduced by an additional 15%, was 5% in PvP combat. So I'm not too sure how. So this is what it's saying is now reduced by an additional 15%. So if it was five, so in my head it means that it's 15% more than what it was, and if it's 5%, that means it's 20% less. So I'm not too sure if it's saying that it's been nerfed to 15%, or if it's being nerfed by an additional 15%. I'm gonna say it's being nerfed by an additional 15%, so it'll be 20% in PvP combat, which is I don't know, I feel like that's a bit harsh, maybe. Um because whilst the mana region was very good, I'm not sure if this change will push it over the edge where they'll be going significantly quicker, which I guess is the point. But hmm, I'm not too sure how I feel about this one. It might be too much, but we'll have to wait and see. Windwalker, Strike of the Windlord damage reduced by 30% in PvP combat. Great. Windwalker damage is disgusting. When they have their cooldowns up, you literally cannot survive unless you press something. Um, so even if you press something, sometimes you just die through it. So I like this change a lot. Paladin Holy mana regen now reduced by an additional 35%, was 40 in PvP combat. So it's getting a 5% buff. So okay, so if this is the wording they use, this is going to on the monk mana regen is going to 15%, which is not as bad. I feel like that's not too bad, I guess. So this is getting a 5% buff in PvP combat. I like it. Holy Pally's just mana. I mean, mana is the least of the worries, honestly. Um, I don't. I just feel like Holy Paladin healing output itself is not that great, and I feel like it gets outshined by a lot of the other healers. So I mean, who can argue with a 5% mana regen buff? But ultimately, not really the direction that Holy Pally wants to be going right now, I think. Priest Discipline mana regen now reduced by an additional 5%, so it got a 10% buff. Well, it says now reduced by an additional 5%. Was the way that they word this is so confusing to me. Maybe because I'm new to like these posts, but the way they word it is quite. So I'm not sure if it got reduced to 5% or it's getting reduced to 20%. But I'm gonna read it as it's getting reduced to 5%. That this will be the new value that I'm thinking of. So I like it. Discipline priest, well, disc and holy actually, uh, have been going just so quickly, so quickly, and it's quite noticeable the difference to other healers in this expansion so far. So I kind of like this change. Shadow with death damage reduced by 20% for shadow only in PvP combat. Reduce the absorption value of powered shield by 20% in PvP combat for shadow only. Reduce the healing transfer of vampiric embrace by 20% in PvP combat. Reduce the duration of void volley horrify by 2 seconds was 3. Reduce the damage of void volley by 30%. I like it. I like it. I like this change. Shadow with Death was hitting so hard, and now that they have the talent that if it doesn't kill you in the first one, it resets for them to have another one straight away at full value, um, is just insane. So I like this change. Reduce the absorption value on powered shield. I like this nerfing the survivability a little bit. Reducing the healing transfer on Vampiric Touch, again touching their self healing, which is also very good as they're just very, very, very tanky at the moment. Reduce the duration of Void Volley Horrify. So if you don't know, when they shot out those little black balls on the ground, and you step in them and you get feared, well, horrified for 3 seconds, um, it will now be 2 seconds. It's not the biggest change, because the thing with this spell was that if you got feared into the animation, so not out of it, you would consistently get horrified over and over again, and it wouldn't DR. So I guess it helps it being 1 second shorter. So if you get chain horrified, it's depending on how many times you get horrified, it will obviously add up. But I like it. It's fine. It's fine. And then reduce damage of void volley by 30%. Amazing. I like these changes a lot. I would like to see a little bit of damage nerfs. I guess it's not too bad as because if they die, then it's not going to be that bad. So I don't mind these. It's a good start. Rogue numbing poison attack and cast speed debuff effectiveness reduced by 33% in PvP combat. Okay, I don't mind this too much as I feel like casters already had a hard time being casters, and with numbing poison and the popularity of Asa Rogue and Outlaw, could make it even more problematic for the cost for any casters out there. So I do like this change. Assassination. Death mark damage dealt by duplicated poisons and bleeds reduced by 30% in PvP combat. I like it. Asa is doing a lot of damage currently, and this will kind of help tune that a little bit and uh, help it be a little bit more manageable for other specs and healers mainly. Secret technique damage reduced by 30% in PvP combat. I like this change. If you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen secret technique damage right now, it is crazy. People are literally flopping, getting 100 odd by secret technique, hitting 300k plus in well 3 hits, and so this change is pretty good. Shaman Healing String Totem, healing increased by 15%. I like this. Honestly, Shaman is probably one of the worst healers right now at the moment, and obviously this is not gonna help them become viable, but obviously a bit of a buff always helps. Elemental, reduce the damage of Elemental Blast by 15% in PvP combat. I like it. As I said before, Elemental right now is literally doming kids for ridiculous numbers with Ellie Blast and also Lightning Bolt. So yeah, I mean even in the note it says we've seen Elemental Blast be too bursty for PvP for both Enhancement and Elemental. Additionally, Lightning Bolt burst with Primordial Wave, dealing more burst than desired. So we're bringing down the value of Primordial Wave so that Lightning Bolt on its own can continue to shine. Great. Enhancement, reduce the damage of Elemental Blast by 15%. Great. And Primordial Wave causes your next Lightning Bolt to hit all targets with Flame Shock for 75% of normal damage. Excuse me. For enhancement only in PvP, down from 150. So this got a 50% nerf, which is honestly, it is needed. It is needed. I'm so happy that they finally changed this. Warlock Affliction, Soulburn port duration reduced to 6 seconds in PvP. Soulburn drain life, no longer grant an absorb when healing at full health in PvP. And Soulburn Hellstone healing reduced to 20% was 30% in PvP combat. I love this. Affliction lock, well, just locks in general have very good survivability, and this just helps them become a bit more mortal, where they don't feel like absolute gods. Which so I love it. The cooldown of Coalfell Hunter is now 60 seconds. Yeah, we've seen that one already. And destruction, chaos damage increased by 15% in PvP combat. Love it. Shadowburn damage increased by 30% in PvP combat, and incinerate damage increased by 30% in PvP combat. So Blizzard trying to um re revive destruction. I love it. I love it. I love it. The spec hasn't really seen much love since Dragonflight dropped, and this is a step in the right direction, trying to revive a spec which was formerly so glorious. I love it. Warrior Fury War Paint now reduces damage taken by 5% was 10 while enraged in PvP combat. I love it, as Fury is just so tanky. Passively, it doesn't really have to do much. So a bit of a nerf to the survivability. I am all for it, and some protection warrior changes, which I'm not gonna go through. As if you play tank in PvP, you should really reconsider some life choices. But in 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 general, I feel like these changes were a step in the right direction, really touching on a lot of problematic spells and abilities for certain classes. I feel like I can't really complain too much about this overall. I'd say I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10 in terms of the direction and the tuning numbers given to spells at the moment. Um, but yeah, I feel like Blizzard are moving in the right direction with this, and if they keep doing this, Dragonflight is looking to be one of the best X pack for PvP um, in a long, long time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and it kind of obviously informed you a bit more about what's upcoming in tomorrow's changes. And if you did enjoy it, please leave a like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Peace out.